Questions, please? David? Yep.
David Moore, Pulse Morning News. We talked to you about this before, but is this week just an extension of what you've been doing to this point, or is there a little bit different in approach and what you're looking for this week?
The approach is the same. Obviously the practice rules are the same. So the only thing really different is two things. One, it's mandatory, and two, we have the ability to have afternoon meetings. So it'll be pretty much the same structure as the first 2 weeks.
When you say mandatory, I know he's been out here, but last 2 sessions we saw Trayvon wasn't here. Is he here today, and he's going to be part of this?
Yeah, he'll be here today. So you guys are bored. We're roll call on OTA phase 2. That's good.
It's mandatory.
Hey, admire your guys' work.
Tyron Smith, have you seen enough for him to say that this guy can that he can play 17 games? He hasn't done it in a long time. I don't know what the plan is for him, right tackle, left tackle, whatever else. But
Tyron's been here every day, the whole off season. So there's not, almost I think 5 days in a weight room. So he's definitely preparing himself for that. Actually, we're going to move Tyron to left tackle and Tyler Smith to left guard today. So we want to work that this week, just so we're feeling like we're working all the different combinations throughout the spring. So, but yeah, he's had an excellent off season.
Thank you.
Your question generated that, so you get credit for it. So you get to put it out on social media. You probably already have it out. So.
Mike, Todd Archer with ESPN. The NFL's gambling policy, you've seen some teams have some issues with it lately. What have you guys done to remind players of it or to bring it up, make it more of a thought process?
I think gambling and all these topics are, they're always at the forefront. Your continuing education process is always at the forefront. I think we have excellent individuals, Cable Johnson, Brian Wansley, and so yeah, that's always something. They're good, healthy reminders. And unfortunately, when something does go wrong, outside of organization, it's also a reminder. So yeah, I think the continuing education as a whole around the National Football League, in the last 15 years, I think has been outstanding. I think we talk so much as a league about things we need to do better and don't recognize the things that they've done a great job of. And I think this, the football on the field activities, training, player safety. The game's safer today, clearly, than it was 5 years ago. Clearly, 10 years. So, there's been so much great progress that's made. But unfortunately, when things go wrong, it's a healthy reminder to all of us.
And then one on the mini camp, on the practices.
Yep.
Are you doing the 2-minute drill? You talked about 11-on-11 2-minute drill during this session.
I kind of revisited it yesterday as a staff. We're not going to do the 11-on-11. We're too aggressive for these rules. So why chance it? So.
Aisha Morrison, DallasCowboys.com. Coach, defensive back coach Joe Wick Jr. made his return back to the field this offseason. Can you speak on how important it is to have him back and to have him back on the field?
Well, Joe Witt's, number one, an outstanding coach. Personally, it's great to have him back because that's obviously the focus. But not only can Joe do a great job in the classroom, so he has great energy on the field. So he's about as good as a on the field coach that I've worked with. So yeah, definitely. You definitely feel his presence out there. It's great to have him back full time.
John Michaud, The Athletic. Jabril Cox, a guy that coming back from the injury last year, maybe didn't get back all the way. Is he similar to Michael Gallup? Were you expecting him now being so far removed from the injury to maybe be back to his old self?
I think you really answered it in your question. I think, when you have players that have a major injury, that first year back is, there's a first time for them, getting through, a number of thresholds they need to get over. So, I can only tell you, based off what I see, I do feel like he is back. He's had a really good off-season program, and and obviously there's more competition there too. So, but yeah, I think major joint injuries take time. And I think you see it each year. Some guys, they never really totally come back clean immediately. So, it's usually the second year where they really feel back to normal.
Mike Edward with ESPN. Now that you're calling offensive plays again, how is that affected your engagement with Dak over the course of the offseason? And in what specific ways do you think you can most make a difference offensively?
Well, I think the obvious is you're spending more time. I mean, anytime jobs and responsibility change, you have to step in the role and the time commitment and most importantly, the interaction. I mean, I think any play caller in this league and quarterback, there's significant amount of time and just conversations and I think number one, and it's just the way that I've always done it and I've been exposed to it, all the way back to University of Pittsburgh is, you got to build, the group in the quarterback room is critical. And, I think clearly, you have Brian Schottenheimer, Scott Tolzien. We've all worked together before. So, I mean, there's history, the specifics of the nuances and how we want to do it is, you have Brian that's coached it, for decades. You had Scott that played, in the system. So, that room is critical, and I feel really good about what we've been able to accomplish in the spring. So, I mean, my personal interaction is really part of it, because the conversations not only to myself and Dak, they got to be consistent all the way through the quarterbacks, consistent all the way through the offensive coordinator, consistent all the way through the quarterback. Because when you do get, mixed signals there, that's where potential, errors can occur. So we've established that throughout the spring, so I think we're off to a really good start.
And Coach, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Yesterday, the team decided to part ways with Antonio Callaway, held a workout with several wide receivers included in that. Tyron Johnson gets the nod, other than adding another tie to the roster. What else did you see from Johnson that kind of stood out in that workout?
Well, I mean, he had an excellent workout. I thought all three guys worked out well, and I just think there's history there, with Robert Prince and, the personnel department felt really good about it, and I just think he brings that, the juice and. It's mandatory minicamp, isn't it? I mean, well, you better get on the stick here, Scott. Do your job. But yeah, so I think he'll be. We're excited to have him.
Coach Mike Wesley from WFA. As you've seen Tony Pollard make his way through this offseason, obviously coming back off injury, sure, but how have you seen him ascend into this role now as your main back? And also, what have you seen from Malik Davis, from Ronald Jones, from the guys that are going to kind of be fighting for that second spot?
Well, that's a cool room. I mean, that's a room that really, I think they've all have just really see the opportunity in front of them. Starting with Tony. I think Tony has done an incredible. Tony is outstanding. He's got a lot of natural leadership. If you watch him in the classroom, extremely bright. He's on top of it. Because there's a lot of new in that room too. We're asking more of our running back position from a responsibility standpoint and pass protection. We've changed some things, and our outside zone is going to be different than it was before. So I mean, this is we've taken a first year approach, offensively. So there are a lot of nuances. And technique things that they're going to be a bit different. And Tony's frankly chomping at the bit to get out there physically. So I mean, he's been there the whole time. But I think he's done an outstanding job in the leadership role. And I really like the young guys. I mean, Malik and Rico have really stepped up. Deuce has come in here, and I think I just really like the way the group's approached it. They've all been. On top of their P's and Q's. I think Jeff Blasco's doing an excellent job there. He brings a whole different. Mindset and outlook, from his background there too. So I think the bigger picture, things we're doing conceptually in the run and the pass protection, there's more responsibility there, and we won't really get to see it until May 31st, which is the first day we put pads on. So I think that will tell a story. But I think the running back group has really had a good offseason. That's about the fifth time I said that. Everybody's had a good offseason, so I won't say no more. So.
Is Pollard able to do anything extra today? Or?
No, we're going to be smart there.
Mike, the other side in DallasCowboys.com. Obviously, everyone's had a good offseason. You just said it, but the tight end room is interesting because we parted ways with Dalton Schultz. In terms of Jake Ferguson and his growth and maturity, we know him as a big personality, a guy who brings a lot of energy to that room. But on the field, how have you kind of seen him mature to possibly take over Dalton Schultz's role?
I've really looked at that tight end, group. Obviously you're asking a question about Jake, but they're all very, very similar. And the first part is, I think clearly that I'll let it go. All right, so they've had a really good offseason in the fact that they're so young, but you look for that second-year jump. So the first part is their understanding of the offense. I really like to look at that room. But really the biggest thing they need to do, starting with Jake and all the way through, is just get bigger and stronger and have that great off season in the weight room. And they've done that. They've been here since the day of the season. I think it took a couple of weeks out, but those guys have been there the whole time working out. So, and you could just really see it in their bodies. So they've really developed there, and that's really I think the number one focal point is not now that they played as rookies and in a limited role. Now to be able to play a 20-game season and to get their weight and everything where it needs to be, and they're doing a nice job of that.
Coach, two things. Luke had a boot on last week. How is he? What's his situation?
Yeah, he's doing good. I mean, he's it's something he's been dealing with. So I mean, all these guys that if they're not out there practicing, I don't anticipate anybody having an issue come training camp. So that's the thought process, is just trying to get these guys ready to go. Obviously, with this being the last week, we'll be cautious again. Terrence Steele will be the one that we'll have to see when we get to Oxnard, but. Yeah, we're just being smart with these injuries.
Okay. Eric Scott got some run with the first team last week. What do you? I mean, obviously it's mini camp and somebody was out, but the fact that he was. What are you seeing from him, and how has he impressed so far?
I'll tell you what, he's been impressive since the day he came in here on a 30 visit. I think obviously his story and his path through college and the ups and downs that he went through. But I think the way the humility that he showed coming out of it, I thought he did a great job in his interview here. I think the physical traits and ability speak for themselves. And I mean, he's probably had first impressions probably near the top of the class. So I mean, he's doing really well. I know Dan and Joe and those guys feel really good about where he's picked it up, and so but he's earned the opportunity to get those reps.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. You've had a number of offensive linemen who predominantly over the course of their football careers have been tackles that have been working extensively at guard. What does their length inside give you in terms of an advantageous profile when you put them at that guard situation with their tackle length?
Well, I think the obvious. I mean, we all understand that everything at the line of scrimmage starts with the run, but to go win the game, you got to pass protect. I mean, you got to, and that's what this league is. The longer in this league, and the roles are just keep tilted towards the passing game, so length and pass protection. So that's the biggest thing that you see inside with those guys. So and that's something that I just really, as long as I've been in this league, from a personnel standpoint, when you're looking at college athletes, you usually you draft tackles, because when you do move them down inside, their natural ability. And really, the amount of reps they have in college, they have pass protection in their past. Because you got to be able to pass protect in this league. I mean, that's that's a given.
Are there any trade-offs in terms of are there any advantages in having a guy with a more compact frame at guard versus someone with such length, or is his length good everywhere?
I just think schematic. It's based off how you want to play. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. When I view the game of football, I start at the end of the game. I think the beginning of the game and the end of the game are critical points in every contest you line up. And every game's different. There's ebb and flow in every single game. They go in different directions. A lot of similar challenges and so forth. But I think clearly, since the period of this league has been evident the last 25 years, and even more so down the stretch here, you got to win games at the end of the game, and that pass rush and protection is a big part of that.
Skyler Dixon, party guy from the AP. How much are you enjoying being the play caller again, the process of it after not having done it for a pretty healthy time?
I think in all coaches, it doesn't depend on what side of the ball you're on. I mean, that's the ultimate seat you want to sit in. I mean, it's everything that goes into preparing that game plan, and I think that's why the collaboration and the continuity and the connection of your staff is so important, and how you regulate and dish out the responsibilities all play into that. But that's the guy that gets to compete on game day with the coordinator on the other side of the field. So yeah, I mean, I think it's only natural, and that I'm enjoying it, and it's been a lot of fun to get back into it.
Finished up with Todd.
With you altering the ending or not having the 2-minute drill here this week?
We're going to do 7-on-7.
Okay. when you get to Oxnard, have you altered that schedule once you get through the ramp up to get some more things in, or do you think you'll be on the same schedule?
Well, we pretty much have always, done 2 minute every day. I mean, the quarterbacks do it at least once a day, most days twice. Yeah, so, yeah, that won't change. So, good. All right. Thank you.